Well, hey everyone, I'm Ricky with Everyday Woodworking, your podcast home for tips, tricks, and information on how to make the most of your woodworking time and money every day. Well, welcome back to another week of Everyday Woodworking. Yes, I'm late again. I'm gonna give up on getting a podcast done every week. I seem to be incapable of it. I'm just so disorganized. It seems like, man, because I want to get it out on Monday mornings. I want it to be available on either Sunday night or Monday mornings. It just never seems to happen. And here it is. It's Thursday, and I'm recording like what I should be. Yeah. Anyway, I'm just gonna do it when I can do it, and I'm gonna try to do it every week. But nevertheless, welcome back to another edition of Everyday Woodworking. Boy, this week's show covers a subject that I get asked about all the time, and that is, how do you make the leap from hobbyist to business owner as a woodworker? How did you do it? How can I do it? How can I do this? And it seems like a really daunting task, okay? And I get it, but it's really not that complicated. But at the same time, I don't think it's something you should take lightly. With that in mind, so I want to talk a little bit in this episode about how we did it, and then give you some tips about how maybe you can do the same. Do you want to make the leap? A lot of us dream of taking our woodworking skills as a hobbyist and turning those into a full-time profession. And hey, I'm as guilty as anyone of watching something like the New Yankee Workshop and thinking, hey, I could do that. I could do that. And in all reality, most of us could. We could do that. That's the thing. But running a successful and a profitable business for any length of time means you've got to do that plus about 20 other things at the same time. It's just not for the faint of heart. But I know I'm spitting in the wind here, because if you're watching or you're listening to this, you want to have your own little woodworking empire going. I know you do. It's a fascinating goal, and with good reason. It's something that we would probably all love to do. So with that in mind, let me just tell you real quickly, in case you're not aware, of how we got started. In about, in 2015, June actually of 2015, I was working in corporate sales, making more money than I ever had in my life. I traveled a lot, and I had a very stressful job, and my health suffered greatly because of it. At 46 years old, I had a major heart attack, and my wife and I decided then that life was just too short to waste it being miserable anymore. So we started working out an exit strategy for me. So while I was on medical leave after my surgery, I started tinkering around with some hand lettering, wooden signs, because I could do the calligraphy. And I posted those things on Facebook. People liked them. People asked for more. And next thing you know, I'm a busy guy doing that. So by the time I returned to the office, I found out pretty quick I was losing more money in turned away orders than I was making at my sales job. So I put in my notice and traded in my office desk for a table saw. And after that, we stumbled, and we readjusted and failed and recovered and shifted, but we generally just kept our eye on the prize, and here we are, 6 or so years later. Wow. And it went by really fast. We took many, many chances, and we were blessed that most of those paid off. But regardless of how things seemed to go and in the moment, we just kept trying, we kept pushing, we kept guessing, we just kept at it, and it seems to have worked out. And so let me say, this is not exactly the approach that I'm encouraging everyone else to do. It just happens to be what happened to work for us. I do wish I would have had a mentor back when we started, but I was really stubborn and independent. I'm still pretty stubborn and independent, but we learned a lot the hard way. But hopefully, after hearing today's podcast, you won't have to do all the stuff that I did. I would definitely want to go back and have a mentor, and I'll get more into that as we go on. So with that, though, what are some things you should be doing if you want to turn your woodworking into a full-time gig? So let's look at a few areas of that. Let me just say that entrepreneurship, while it's hard to say, it's not for everybody. And this is aside from the ability to keep a lot of plates in the air all at the same time. And don't get me wrong, working for yourself it's awesome. I love it. The benefits that go with it, there are tons of benefits that make me say I will never work for someone else again, at least not intentionally. But it does require a certain level of stick-to-itiveness, okay? When we started Apple Valley Farm, I wasn't just wanting to strike out on my own, but because of my heart attack, I was motivated to find and pursue something new. And that is the momentum that sustained us for a long, long time. But make no mistake, if you do strike out on your own, if you do start your own business, you're going to burn out. It just happens. Sooner for some, later for others. But you'll experience some burnout. The key to me for making it through the burnout was to find my focus, to stay on the path of what I loved and not get too crazy. And what I mean when I say too crazy is I've got a tendency to fixate on whatever I'm doing at the moment. It might be building with reclaimed wood, which is what we do. It might be reclaiming bricks from an old house, which is something else we're doing. It might be a podcast. And, I get these ideas for things that I want to try. They seem like good ideas, and then I just jump in. I just jump in with all 4 feet, and we see if it works. That's just kind of the way that I'm built. But you don't want to get too crazy. The problem when you attack a task like that and you just attack it, it's great for the short term. And for me, I'm like a fighter jet. I blast out of the gate at Mach 2, and I'm tearing it up like there's no tomorrow. But that pace eats up a lot of gas. And when you run out of gas, and you will run out of gas, you will have to find a way to stay afloat, or you'll crash and burn. So when I say don't get too crazy, I mean you got to find your zone and then ride it. You got to be able to stay in that zone. I'm not saying be complacent and lazy and stuff like that, but you got to find I would call it a marathon pace, where you find your pace and then you just sit in that and cruise in it. And then you got to live in that space. Your sanity is going to depend on it. Also, you want to get some help. And I'm not talking about physically help in the shop, even though that might not be a bad idea. But you want to find things to feed yourself. These are just critical things for any new business venture. And this little subject, this section here, this could be like a whole book unto itself. And my advice isn't going to take care of all this, but I would say just don't go into this completely alone. And I'll get a little bit more into this as we go on. But some of the things, let me give you some examples of some things that helped me when I needed help. You don't want to reinvent the wheel every time you do something. You need someone to turn to. And that's why I was mentioning a mentor before. You really need a mentor. Mentor probably would be most likely another older, maybe more experienced woodworker. But they may not be, but they should be someone you trust and respect. Also, get involved in some online communities, and not just woodworking groups either, but diversify yourself. You'll never know who you'll meet and what benefit those people are going to have on your journey. So get involved in some groups and in some communities. And finally, I would say become a reader. That could involve audiobooks or podcasts. But my preference is actually reading a physical book. Now, I'm not going to bore you with my opinions on that, but I like a book. I'm a self-help sucker. I thrive on it. And the people who thrive in that field are folks I love to read about. I mean, I confess I do take a lot of it with a grain of salt, but there are definitely nuggets of gold to be found in the self-help arena. There are dozens of people you could read about in that area, but I'll say this, Tony Robbins, Tony's my boy. I mean, I love Tony. I have read and listened to and gone to see Tony for years and years, and I'm sold on him. He's the guy. His book, Awaken the Giant Within, I'm going to recommend that. This is one, I've read this book at least a dozen times. I would recommend you get a copy of it and start letting it inspire you. Your brain will thank me later. Okay, so let's get into this. I've been rambling a little bit now. Sorry. I feel like I'm doing this today. I don't really have a focus, but I've got notes here. But I'm still just rambling. Anyway, let me get into this. Okay, I've got some bullet points here. I wanna get into. Number one, take a look at yourself. And I've already gotten into some of this. But as I said, self-employment, it's not for everybody. You've got to be dedicated, organized. Okay. You got to be creative, able to handle stress, and willing to do crap that nobody else wants to do. It's tough. It really is tough. And you've got to take an objective look at yourself before you jump into this, because you might not be built for this. You just might not be. And there's nothing wrong with that. Some people just aren't built for it. Aside from the obvious questions about talent and giftedness and marketability, there are emotional traits you just got to consider. Are you scattered? Are you disorganized? I'm disorganized. Are you a worrier? Yes, I'm a worrier. Sorry. Are you bad with money? Dang, yes, I'm bad. I'm all these things. Anyway, I'm not scattered. Well, I can be scattered. Okay, I'm scattered. I'm all these things. So, my advice is coming back to bite me. But if you're not sure that you can be completely objective with yourself, find yourself, again, a mentor or someone you can trust, and ask them to be brutally honest about you, about who you are. My wife is my sounding board. She's the one I go to. She will tell me the truth, even if it hurts. And I need that because I'm a dreamer. She's a realist, but I'm the dreamer. And if you're a dreamer, then you need someone to help you keep your feet on the ground. You could turn to your spouse. It could be a brother, sister. It could be a great friend, but be careful with that. Could be an older mentor, maybe a pastor. That would be great. I would avoid your mama. Just just avoid your mama, because mamas love you. It doesn't matter what. I probably would also avoid coworker, other like current coworkers, the people that are just going to tell you what you want to hear. You need somebody to be mean if they need to be. So, all right, money matters. Don't misunderstand me. You got to have money. You got to have money to start a business. It takes some. If that was, but you don't have to have a lot of money. Okay, if that was the case, I never would have gotten started. But you do need to try to be financially healthy if you possibly can, at least as much as possible. Frankly, we are blessed. When we started, we hit the ground running from day one. But the overwhelming majority of businesses won't see a profit for at least a year, possibly 2 years. And most businesses won't make it that long. So it will greatly help if you can have some money stuck back to keep you going in the beginning, because you're probably not going to be profitable in the beginning. It's just, I would love it if you are, but you're probably not going to be in the beginning. And so I would strongly, strongly encourage you to be debt free as much as possible before you get going in business. The debt will eat you alive. It just will. And it's one less thing to have to worry about if you can eliminate it. Having said that, let me mention credit cards specifically. As a business owner, you have to have at least a credit card. You just have to. But you can't just run on cash. But you got to treat that credit card like a hand grenade. If you lose respect for it, it'll destroy you. It will just destroy your business. And that's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to get into a whole bunch. Basically, use your credit card smartly. Don't be a dummy. You already know all this. Debt can be a terrible thing. All right. Be realistic. Okay. It's hard to be blunt with yourself when you think something is going to work. I know I have this problem myself. Again, I would go back to my go-to person, get some candid advice. But sometimes you'll take a chance, and that's just part of it. Don't be foolish though. But you're going to take a chance. Know your market, study your demographics, understand profit margins to the penny. To the penny. If you don't know what you're spending on something, you don't need to be in business. Just people that say, "Oh, I make this, I'm not really sure how much I have in it," they don't need to be in business. You need to know to the penny what something costs you to make. If you don't, do it. All right. That's it. I'm not going to say any more about that. Well, okay, I will. So before you quit your day job to stay at home making widgets, you better have some proof that there is a profitable demand for widgets first before you do that. It's just common sense. If not, then you got to revise the widgets, or you got to revise your approach. Either way, know who your people are before you bet the farm on your big idea. All right. Next piece of advice. And I still feel like I'm kind of rambling here. I hope it doesn't seem like I'm rambling, but all right. So next thing, know where you're going. As the old saying goes, it's hard to get somewhere if you don't know where you're going. So as business goes, you got to have a goal, or as they call it in the business world, a business plan. I like the idea of a business plan, even though it might not be really essential for you, but I do like the idea, or the bones of the idea of a business plan. I'll be honest, we never really wrote a formal business plan for Apple Valley Farm. But what we did do is we wrote down our goals, short and long term. We crafted a mission statement. we pinned out a vision, and we knew what we wanted, and we knew exactly why we wanted it. We were very specific and very intentional about what we were doing and why we were doing it. So in my opinion, these things are like basic minimum requirement for any business owner, especially the why part of it. You've got to know your why. That'll help keep you focused. For us, my wife and I, we knew the big reason we wanted me to work for myself was to give us freedom for our family. And that's it. It was easy. We knew that everything else lined up behind that idea. And that's what made it work for us. Now, even today, like if an opportunity comes up to expand or modify our process or whatever, we weigh all of our choices out against that goal. Does this help me be more available or less available for my family? And that's the fulcrum there, and that's how we weigh out all of our business moves. Now, that's us. That may not be you. But you've got to know what your fulcrum is. And then you got to stick with it. I mean, some people say you got to be willing to change and modify and go with the flow, yada, 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 yada. And I get it. And that's a discussion for another day. But I'll say for now, you've got to have a defining value that will be your litmus test for all your decisions. That's how we do it. And that's what works for us. Okay. And I'm about to get into the downsides of things. And you may be sitting here thinking, you're not talking about tools, you're not talking about plans, you're not talking about setting up a shop, you're not talking about any woodworking stuff. And no, I'm not. This is just a business discussion. If you're going to set up a woodworking business, forget the woodworking idea of it for the moment. You're setting up a business. So if you want to make the move from a hobby to a business, we're talking about business right now. And then these business decisions will be applicable to your woodworking business or a pressure washing business or a mechanic business or whatever, consulting, these are just basic, great, I think they're great business suggestions. Okay. All right. Blah. Okay. Getting off down that rabbit hole. The last point I want to make here is I want to talk about the downsides to owning a business. Are there downsides to being a business owner? Yeah, a lot. There are a lot. Only a dummy would do this, right? Is it worth it? Yeah, it's worth it. It's absolutely worth it. For me, it's an absolute yes. It's definitely worth it. But now that's going to be up to you to decide if it's worth it for you. You will definitely, if you're going to do this right, you will definitely work more than you ever did for anybody else. It's just, you will. I work around 70 hours a week. Okay. And it doesn't sap me. It doesn't beat me down because it doesn't feel like 70 hours a week or so, partly because I love it. I mean, I enjoy what I'm doing. But another part of it is because sometimes I'm, even though I'm working like late at night or on the weekend or on the holidays, or even sometimes when we go on vacation, I'm on the clock, so to speak. But I rarely work like an 8-hour stretch. It's usually like, okay, an hour here, then a couple hours here, and then maybe an hour later tonight. And because I'm mingling family and freedom all during the day, it flows much more easily. But I mean, you will work a lot as a business owner. Also, remember, people are fickle, okay? And this isn't a diss against our friends and family and our clients, but it's just a fact of dealing with people. If you're not in the habit of selling and dealing with clients, get ready for a reality check. One day, you're going to be doing this and you're going to be like the hot new kid on the block. The next, your old hat, your old news. It's not a personal attack on you, but it feels really personal when something like that happens. But just be prepared for it, because fame comes in waves. Your popularity will rise and fall depending on public opinion. Sometimes you can influence that. Sometimes there's nothing you can do about it. Just go ahead and get ready for it. Another one, haters are going to hate. All right, especially if you're online, and I'm sure you will be. You would think that people who don't like your work, or they don't like your video, or your choice of impact drivers, or the way you pronounce chrysanthemum. I mean, you would think those people would just move on, but they don't. They don't. I don't know why. They'll be compelled for some reason to let you know how wrong, how mistaken, how stupid, and how ignorant you are, and they're going to do it in public. I don't know why they're like that. They just seem to be compelled to bring negativity to you, but you can't get bogged down in all that junk. It's going to happen, but you've just got to let it be what it's going to be, and that is someone's opinion. Glean what you can, and then file that stuff away. Focus on your victories, and then let the droppings just fall by the wayside. And this is one of my biggest challenges, because I take it all so personally. Like when we post, well, just the other day, we posted a new video on our YouTube channel. I'm looking back through the comments the next morning, and someone had said something really mean on there about the way I talk. And I thought, dude, just why? Why did you do that? Why would you want to beat me down? Does that make you feel better about yourself? Anyway, because I take it really personally, even though we might get thousands of other positive comments, that one, it can ruin my day. It can ruin my week. So you've got to handle that. And just know that stuff is coming. Finally, and this is something that I'm just beginning to understand. Understand, you do not have a monopoly on whatever you do, woodworking in this case. There are a lot of other full-time woodworkers. Hey, that was messed up. Okay, and finally, the last point I want to make here in the downsides, and I don't know. Okay. All right, so the final point I want to make here in the downsides and in everything altogether. Okay, so the final point I want to make here is, and this is something that I'm just beginning to kind of get my head around, and this kind of goes back to taking things personally also. But you've got to remember, if you're going to start a woodworking business, you don't have a monopoly on woodworking in your area. There are a lot of other full-time woodworkers out there. There are a lot of other part-time woodworkers out there. And here's the shocker. This was a shocker for me when the light bulb went on in my head. Basically, like from a guy's point of view, every other husband in the world, they've got a handful of woodworking tools in their garage, and guess what? Most of them can do the same stuff that you're doing in their spare time. And most of them can do it better. Some of them can do it better than you. And you're wanting to create a business around what you do. I mean, it's really intimidating if you start to get in your head about this. This was a huge blow to my ego. I mean, because I was supposed to be like the guy who woodworks around town. But the fact is, a lot of people take part in woodworking. You're not going to be the guy. You can't take it as a personal attack every time somebody that's a friend of yours, a legit friend, posts a picture of something that their husband made for them that you also make. You can't do that. And that was a problem for me for years in the beginning, is I would get offended every time someone would not come to me to have work done that they knew that I did. You got to let that stuff go. We're taking things personally because we work for ourselves. It's a small business. It's a family business. It's a personal business. You got to take it personally and then not take it personally. It's really difficult to do, but this is just something that I have struggled with, and so I would suggest to you, get this in your head if you can. Do what you do, and people will come to know that you do that. And when it comes down to it, folks generally want a professional. When they're ready to strike out and get something done, they'll be looking for a professional. And when you have that reputation, they'll be coming to you. It's that simple. Okay, so this is far from a comprehensive list of stuff you should consider when you're thinking about starting your own business. I think it's going to be a good start. And like I said, I didn't talk hardly at all about woodworking. We're talking about business. It just happens to be a woodworking business that we're talking about. But I think I want to come back to this in a few weeks, and I want to spend a little more time on it. I want to go into some details on some other things, like legal things, market research, social media. We can do a whole podcast on social media. Digital income and diversification. Yeah, we could do a whole podcast on that too. I think maybe we will. We'll come back. We'll hit on some, what am I trying to say? Some business ideas, some woodworking business ideas. I think that would be helpful because a lot of us would love to find a way to make money doing what we do. Some of us would like to find a way to make a business out of what we do. So I think some additional business discussions will be good. So anyway, all that stuff is part of it. All that in the 21st century, running a business. It would be great if we could just walk out into our shop and we could just do stuff and word would spread and the money would flow. But we live in a world where a lot of avenues have to be considered as we're doing things. So I think we need to talk about it. But I enjoyed that. I'm way over budget on my time right now. But I do hope that you guys enjoyed that. I enjoyed it. And forgive me, I can't help but land on the idea that I think I was rambling. So forgive me if you think I was rambling. If you don't think I was rambling, then just forget I mentioned that at all. Okay. One last thing, though. Hey, if you enjoyed this episode, please take a second, leave us a great review. It makes a huge difference for us, especially if you listen on Apple Podcasts or Stitcher. That makes a big difference. But wherever you're listening, we'd love it if you subscribed and became a regular listener. Also, if you're watching us on YouTube, obviously, you can see I'm recording the video as we do the podcast here. We try to post a video of every podcast episode on our Apple Valley Farm YouTube channel. Apple Valley Farm is our woodworking business, by the way, in case you don't know. Definitely like and comment and subscribe to our channel there as well. We post not only the podcast episode, but we post a lot of woodworking how-to videos, and we get on into some of our gardening stuff and things like that around the house. So we have a pretty good time on there. Finally, if you'd like to learn even more about us, you can check us out. Check out things like show notes, our store, woodworking plans, a blog, yada, 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 over at applevalleyfarmga.com. That's our woodworking home online. And that's it. That is it. Hey guys, have a great day, and thanks again for being here. I do hope this was enjoyable. Let me know what you think, and let me know if you have any ideas for some other stuff we can talk about. Thank you. Take care. I'll see you next time right here on Everyday Woodworking.